Welcome all. I am Rachel Francois, Global Program Manager for Google Developer Student Clubs. I join you all from New York City, and I'm excited to finally welcome you all to our kickoff event. I know we have folks joining from all over the world, and I could not think of a more appropriate purpose for such a gathering, exploring innovative ideas to address some of the most pressing challenges of today with technology. I see that many of you already started to connect in the chat space, sharing your names and where you're joining from, and even contact information. So I encourage you to do so throughout, and hopefully you can continue to grow your network. But before we get into the details of Solution Challenge, let me first share a bit about what Google Developer Student Clubs is and the ways to get involved before we move into the reason why we're all here, right? Solution Challenge. So Google Developer Student Clubs, also known as GDSC, are campus-based community groups for college and university students interested in learning and building with Google technologies in a peer-to-peer environment. Students can apply to become a GDSC lead on their campus and organize events for their peers that focus on technical content provided by Google. Or you can get in on the fun by joining a nearby GDSC chapter and start attending their events to get a sense of what GDSC is all about. I encourage you all to learn more by visiting goo.gle/GDSC. So we have a full agenda today, and we look forward to sharing with you an overview of the Solution Challenge contest, including eligibility criteria, timelines, judging process, and prizes. We've invited guests from Google to share more details about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and how you can consider them in your project. We'll also provide a high-level overview of the suite of Google developer technologies available to you to power your solution projects. Then we'll bring up team members from last year's top 10 finalists to share their experience on how best to get started. We'll wrap up with question and answers and an opportunity for you to connect with each other in breakout sessions, also known as networking tables, to maybe find teammates or ask questions of last year's top 10 team members, or just to overall grow your network. And we're gonna move to the next slide. But before we get started, let's establish some rules of engagement. By participating here, we ask that everyone agrees to, one, respecting each other's diverse opinions and experiences. Let this be a brave space that folks are free and open to share. And let's respect each other's confidentiality. I like to say what is shared here stays here, but what is learned here leaves here. Go to the next slide. You may have questions as we move through the presentation. I ask that you add your questions to the question and answer field that you should be able to locate on the far right of the event platform. We will try our best to answer all questions at the designated question and answer time. You may find that we answer your questions as we move through the presentation, so wait till the end. You may want to wait to the end to drop your questions, but feel free to start doing them in real time. So this event will be recorded and available to everyone on our website, goo.gle/solution challenge, in the following days, just in case you miss anything. Now let's get into Solution Challenge 2024. Okay, so we're gonna try to stream this video of our promo. Let's see if the audio connects, and then we can talk a little bit more about the Solution Challenge. All right, so it looks like it's playing, but the audio is not coming through, unfortunately. But this is something you'll have access to post the event. We'll be reaching out to you all via email. You'll have a link to this. It's already on our YouTube page, and you've probably already seen some of it on our social platforms. But this is fresh off the presses, and hopefully it serves as an inspiration to you and gets you energized about this experience you're about to embark on. So we each are motivated by our own reasons in participating in the Solution Challenge. And I want to take a few moments to reflect on our why. In the chat, if you can please jot down the reasons that you're interested in participating in the Solution Challenge. Why is it of interest to you? Let's see, give it a couple of seconds, probably give it 30 seconds, see 30 to 45 seconds to see what folks are motivated by in participating this year. Give us some time. Great. Build projects, healthcare. I'm just reading in real time. Some folks are using it as an opportunity to upskill on their technical expertise, prize money, growth, experience, challenge myself. Great. Prize experience. Great. Make the world a better place. Awesome. Keep jotting those down. Yeah, one of the main themes that I'm seeing here is to make a difference, create some kind of impact. And if you want to keep that goal in mind, and I encourage you all to have that goal as a part of a series of your factors that you're considering participating in Solution Challenge, I want to remind you that this is a journey that focuses on progress rather than perfection. The topics that you are considering are vast and can feel overwhelming, but don't let that discourage you from getting started. To submit a project doesn't mean it's perfect, but it's purposeful. I'd like for you to move from the mindset of what if to even if. Instead of thinking of all the things that could go wrong, what about thinking about all the things you and your community may overcome as a result of this experience that you're building? As a team, you will discover, learn, and ask deep questions to inform your project's research and approach. Your project may not be the final best version of your ideas, but it'll be a cumulative effort of your critical thinking and practical application of these technical skills that you're acquiring. At times, we can get stuck over-analyzing and aiming for perfection, but what we really need is to just start somewhere, get something out in the world for people to react to, and then we can build upon it. Participating in the Solution Challenge can be the first step of many steps you'll take in your future as a developer or an entrepreneur. It can serve as your launching pad for the next phase of your idea. I want you to ask yourselves and your teams, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Why does it matter? For who? And how does your intervention contribute to the goal's progress? That should be your North Star that you follow and come back to when you're moving through your ideation and iteration stages. Another thing that I make it fun, right? Record your wins, take pictures, videos along the journey as you move through each milestone. So when you identify a problem, when you decide on who your teammates are going to be, when you achieve a working prototype, those are all things that you should celebrate that might feel small but are huge in your journey as you build a project for Solution Challenge. So let's build and see what the ripple impact can be. I'll pass it over to Jackie to talk through the details of the contest now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm really excited to be here today. My name is Jackie Bedard. I'm a global project manager for the Google Developer Student Clubs. And I'm joining you today from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm very excited to be here to talk about Solution Challenge. So I'll be sharing an overview of what the Solution Challenge is, walk through a timeline of key dates, discuss eligibility and the rules around participation, share the criteria you'll need to consider when building and then submitting your project. And lastly, I'll be talking about the prize details for the winners. So let's jump in. So this marks the 5-year anniversary of Solution Challenge. The inspiration came from the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals that were agreed upon by all of the 193 United Nations member states in 2015. The goals aim to end poverty, ensure prosperity, and protect the planet by 2030. For the last 5 years, Google Developer Student Clubs has invited university students to use technology by Google to develop solutions for real-world problems using those sustainable development goals. Okay, so next, let's talk about the timeline of the Solution Challenge. So registration is currently open. If you're interested and haven't registered yet, you can get registered by going to the site that Rachel mentioned earlier. This will allow you to receive upcoming communications about events, important dates, resources, and other important updates. Now, if you participated last year, you'll notice that the submission timeline has changed a bit. Teams will be able to start submitting projects starting on January 21st through February 22nd. Now, I'll share more about the submission guidelines in a few slides, but I want to note that if you're planning to submit a project, you'll want to start designing and building now. Then, submissions will go through a judging process, and the top 100 teams will be announced in early April. Those teams will be matched with a mentor based on their projects, and they're going to get one-on-one time with their mentor over the course of a month. Teams are going to be able to ask them questions and areas of their project that they need support on, whether that's technical or on the planning side. And those top 100 teams will iterate on their projects and they'll resubmit for another round of judging. Judges will then review those resubmitted projects from the top 100 teams and select the final 10 teams, which will be announced in late May. The final 10 teams will receive continued mentorship through the following month, leading up to Demo Day on June 27th. During Demo Day, the final 10 teams will present their solutions live to judges, and the winning 3 teams will be announced live during the YouTube live stream. Audience members will have a say too. They'll be voting for their favorite team, as well as some other fun activities that we have planned. So stay tuned for more details. Okay, let's talk about the rules of participation. So first of all, any undergraduate or graduate student can participate. You do have to be above the age of majority in your country, which in most cases, this means that you have to be at least 18 years of age. Leads, core team members, and GDSC members can join. Even those who haven't joined a GDSC can participate. We do encourage everyone to join a GDSC, but to participate in the solution challenge specifically, at least one of your team members needs to be a GDSC member. So let's talk more about team participation. You can only be a part of one team, so you can't join multiple teams. Those teams, though, can be made up of 1 to 4 members. Okay. This question comes up a lot, so listen clearly. Team members can be from different universities, different GDSC chapters, and even different countries. And one more reminder, at least one team member needs to be a GDSC member in order to participate in the solution challenge. Okay, so we talked about some of these timelines earlier, but here's another view in a checklist format. I find this really helpful because I really like to go through and check off what I've already done. So here's what you should be focusing on right now. If you haven't already, form a team. Select one or more of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Maybe this is based on an issue you experienced or something that you see in your community. So research and write out your problem statement. Come up with a solution for that problem and begin thinking about which Google tech that you could utilize to develop your solution. Next, design your solution. Build a prototype, test, iterate, and test some more. Lean on the demographic of those that experience the problem that you're trying to solve for to get feedback so that you can iterate on your project. When you're ready, record a demo video, no more than 2 minutes long, showing how users are interacting with your solution. We want to see how your solution works. Then, as we discussed earlier, you'll submit your solution between January 21st and February 22nd. You'll do this through a Google form. let's talk more about the submission criteria that you'll need to think about in order to submit your project. Okay, so this is the submission criteria your team will need to submit along with your demo video when you're ready. You'll need to provide a written response to each of these questions. So let's walk through these. As I mentioned in the previous slide, you'll need to have a clear problem statement based on the challenge that you're solving for. You'll also need to set specific sustainable development goals and targets so that you'll be able to measure how successful your solution is in helping to solve the problem. You'll need to describe which specific products and platforms you utilized, the technical architecture that you chose, the components, and the responsibility of each. Testing and feedback is really important. You'll need to describe what steps you took, the feedback you received, challenges you faced, and how you iterated on your project. And finally, scalability is also super important. You'll need to be thinking about this as you design your solution. You'll need to describe how you plan for this and what scaling to a larger audience would look like. Okay, finally, let's talk about prizes. As I mentioned earlier, the top 100 teams will receive one-on-one mentorship. They'll also receive a top 100 branded t-shirt and a certificate. The final 10 teams will receive continued mentorship through demo day, a top 10 special swag box, and they'll be featured in a top 10 blog. As I mentioned earlier, they'll also have the opportunity to present live during demo day. And finally, each of the final 10 team members are going to receive $1,000 each. Okay. The winning 3 teams, they're going to receive a special swag box. They're also going to be featured in a blog post. And for each of these 3 team members, they're going to receive $3,000 each. And finally, for the winning 3 teams, they're going to also receive 6 months support from the Startups for Sustainable Development program. We're really excited to offer these. So register now, start forming your teams, and don't forget to submit your solution by February 22nd.
Great. Thank you so much, Jackie. So now I'm going to ask you all to please help me welcome Erwin Botbull, founder of Startups for Sustainable Development, who will spend some time talking with us about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These are one of the incentives that will be available to our winning team. So take a close listen. Welcome to the stage, Erwin.
Thanks, Rachel. Hi, everyone. My name is Erwin, and I'm very excited to be talking to you today about the SDGs and give you some more backgrounds that hopefully will help you build exciting solutions. Next slide, please. So when we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, there's 17 of them. And this is a framework that was adopted by the United Nations back in 2015. And they set out particular goals, targets by year 2030 for each one of them. Each box in this graphic represents a particular category, from hunger to poverty, healthcare, education, water, energy, life underwater, life below water. You will be able to pretty much map anything that is related to impact for society or the environment in those boxes. Next slide, please. There's some common principles across all SDGs, and it's important to be aware of those principles. So table stakes, human rights-based approach. We're not going to spend too much time on this because this is very generic and this is usually what you expect it to be. But the other 2 principles that are not as obvious are related to, first, leaving no one behind. What do we mean by this? We mean that when we develop solutions, we want to make sure that the solution is inclusive of everyone. And it could be things like people with disabilities or communities that are underrepresented, or when deploying solutions across many countries, making sure that it does work for everyone in every country. And so this is one principle that is cutting across all 17 SDGs. The second one is related to gender equality and women's empowerment in particular. And again, this is not something that is necessarily straightforward, but today there's a lot of data and evidence that shows that bringing more power to women, more economic power, more education, enables economies to fulfill their full potential, but also enables addressing those sustainable development goals. Whether we talk about education, but also things like addressing climate change, reducing carbon. Today, one of the top solutions when it comes to reducing carbon emissions is actually increasing education for women. And that may not be obvious, but it has a direct link to the impact on the planet. So every time you think about building a solution across those SDGs, keep in mind those two principles and see if there is especially something that you can do about it in your solution. Next slide, please. Now, those targets are very broad. Education, healthcare, poverty, right? So how do you go about it? It's actually a framework that is very detailed. So if you look it up online and you search for SDG targets and indicators, you're going to find for each box a lot of additional details that will give you not only information about particular topics that matter in the context of the SDGs, but also the actual metrics that matter. So what does it mean for you? It means when you're thinking about building a solution and you're like, oh, that's probably related to education or healthcare, concretely, you want to go online, check out those boxes and see if there's an actual target or indicator that maps directly to the solution you're building, right? So if you're building a solution that is going to tackle healthcare, you see here some examples. One of the metrics related to healthcare is to reduce the maternal mortality ratio, okay? So this is the framework that you will need to use to really make sure that the solution you're developing is actually addressing the SDGs. And sometimes it's not obvious, so I highly encourage all of you to use this framework. Next slide, please. Going over those solutions, there are risks sometimes when you intend to develop a solution that you think would be useful, but it's actually not having the intended impact that you want, or worse, it has a negative impact. And there's three broad categories of things to watch out for. The first one is the lack of context. If you build a solution targeting especially a community or a population that you're not familiar with, you may not have the full context about that population, and there is a risk that you're going to develop something that may make sense in your country or community, but not necessarily will make sense in the target communities that you have. For example, drip irrigation is a technology that was developed in Israel, and the goal is that we install small tubes that are going to drip irrigate those drops of water, so saving on water. And works wonderful in Israel and some other countries, but when this was actually exported to Ethiopia, because there is a big water issue, those tubes did not work. Why that? Because the holes in the tubes got clogged by the sands from Ethiopia. And so this is an example where you have to be mindful about the target. The other example is more tricky. That category of do no harm concept is that sometimes you are doing good for a particular population, but the good that you're doing is having a negative consequence overall on the community. And there is a concrete example of that happening a few years back in Africa when we brought digital platforms to provide access to internet to the local communities. And so on the surface of it, it's great because you provide access to information, and that will increase the level of knowledge and increase the overall prosperity of the communities using it. And this is true, but it has a negative consequence, and it had a negative consequence, which was the only people who were using the computers were the people who were literate. And it happened to be the men. And because in those communities, women were usually not as literate as the men, that type of solution increased the gap between men and women, which has a lot of negative consequences on its own. So again, an example of a solution that apparently on the surface is going to be good, but when you contextualize it, it may have negative consequences. And last but not least, if you design a solution that requires some kind of external support, whether it's from NGOs or government, always make sure that this is a solution that is sustainable and doesn't requires an external financial support to make it work, right? So it's very nice to develop some hand washing stations, but if it requires importing the soap from another country, that's not really going to be sustainable. With that said, let's look at some concrete, exciting solutions that students developed last year in the context of this initiative. Next slide, please. So Buzzbusters from Bolivia, what did they do? They created an early warning system to prevent epidemics of mosquito-borne disease. And to do this, they used a lot of cool technologies, including AI technologies to make those predictions and Google Maps and cloud storage. But the goal here was focusing on SDG 3 and healthcare and reducing the mortality of those diseases. Next slide. From Indonesia, we had a team, Wonder Reader, which was focusing on providing support for visually impaired students by leveraging technologies from the phone and 3D printed braille readers to make it simpler for them to get access to education. So focusing on education and especially reducing inequalities and this concept of leaving no one behind that we talked about. Next slide, please. And the last winner was Head Home, and they developed an application to help people impacted by dementia. And so helping them locate them so that they don't get lost. They also used technologies, location-based technologies, the Google Cloud, but at the end of the day, focusing on SDGs, again, healthcare, targeting particular communities, especially communities that are more vulnerable than others. And last but not least, next slide, there was a People's Choice Award, Farm X from Nigeria, which developed solutions to empower smallholder farmers to help them with planting crops, increasing yields, and impacting zero hunger at the end of the day. So those were really exciting solutions. Hopefully it gives you some ideas about the type of solutions you can build. But beyond those ideas that you're going to have, we hope that you will also then take it to the next level and graduate your ideas maybe in a startup. Next slide, please. And that's the type of startups that we would love to support as part of the Startups for Sustainable Development project. So the 3 winning teams will win 6 months of support from our program. You will join a community of hundreds of impact entrepreneurs all over the world that Google is supporting. And an example of such startup we support, Earthly, who is building solutions to encourage people to invest in nature-based solutions, planting trees, and making sure that there is a measurable impact to planting those trees, they're being preserved, while at the same time gamifying the experience to make it more exciting for people to invest in those solutions. So we're really excited about having you join this initiative. We're very excited about the solutions you're going to build. where I hope you're going to join us for this great community of entrepreneurs that are building for impact, societal and environmental impact, and we'll be happy to join you and support you in the next stage of your journey. So with that said, I want to wish all of you good luck, and I'm looking forward to the exciting solutions that you'll be building. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erwin. And I know that the next slide has a link to for more information. If we can move to the next slide about startups for sustainable development. So please feel free to visit. Thank you, Erwin, so much. I can't emphasize enough around the importance of the solutions that you're considering, that they have contextual relevancy for the communities that you're hoping to impact in ways that are positive and sustainable. So hope you all take heed to what Erwin has shared. And again, you can again visit Startups for Sustainable Development to learn more, as this might be a potential opportunity for you as a winning team. All right, and then our next segment is from a colleague here at Google who would be talking to us about the various Google developer technologies that are available to you. We can move to the next slide. Kyle Paul, we have this as an available recording, and we wanted to play it here, but it seems like we might be having some audio issues. If we are going to attempt it here, if it doesn't work, I do want to share that again, this slide, this presentation, excuse me, and this event recording will be available to you all post the event. So you'll have access to view this at your own leisure and reference throughout your journey as you get started. So I did want to say that we do have details that we can share with you about what is available to you at no cost through our open source Google developer technologies, ranging from Android to cloud to TensorFlow to Flutter to Firebase, as all of these are available to you all. So we're going to move over to our next segment of the event, where we're going to bring up to stage all of our previous finalist teams from the 2023 Solution Challenge, where they'll be able to share with you all their experience on getting started that actually ended up landing them a seat in the demo day finalist teams to present to a panel of judges and chances to win our various prizes. So if we can move on to the next slide. Great. All right. And then we can move to the next slide here. Great. So Erwin started to already mention a number of these teams, and we have them represented here today, which we're very thankful for. So we're going to start off with Wonder Reader. Wonder Reader representing Binus University International in Indonesia. Wonder Reader is a 3D printed digital braille reader that helps visually impaired students learn by connecting wirelessly to a smartphone, allowing teachers to send questions to the device through Bluetooth and students to reply using the built-in braille keyboard. Wonder Reader was built using Google Cloud, Firebase, Flutter, and Google Text-to-Speech API. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to invite our team members here to introduce themselves and share with all of us some of the 3 most valuable things that they did to help them progress through their Solution Challenge journey. So over to you, Team Wonder Reader.
All right, I think we can start with introductions. My name is Jason Jeremy Wijadi. People usually call me JJ. We can continue on. Philip?
Hey, my name is Philippus Tandra. I'm going into my 3rd year in Binus University International. Pleasure to be able to speak here. Jason.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Christian Hilanto. You can call me Jason. I just recently graduated from university, and I'm currently fully working on Wonder Reader. So I think we can start sharing about the 3 that we learned while making this project Wonder Reader. So for me, it was more about the learning. So it's kind of meta because what we learn is we learn about learning. So let me explain. So Solution Challenge presents us with a really unique opportunity because through Solution Challenge, we are able to learn a lot of things, not only for developing how to develop a program, but we also learn how to communicate, how to solve a problem that we don't feel. Because during our project, we worked with another organization in Indonesia. So the organization is for the benefit of the visually impaired people. It's called Mitra Netra. And we had to work with them to create the solution. We asked them what their problems are. Uh, and we asked them, is it good if we can solve it through this? And we as a team, we have to work together to achieve a solution that is applicable to them, that is satisfying to them. And so we learn a lot of things in this competition because originally we haven't even worked with an organization before. And a lot of the things in this project, we just learned during the competition. So what I'm trying to say is you have to be ready to learn, and you have to want to learn, because I guess you can say that life is a never-ending learning process. So I'm gonna pass it to my teammate.
All right. So for me, I think the one of the key things is a lot of people are usually confused about the use of technology that they want to use in their solution. But I think, in my personal opinion, for the use of technologies, there's no one that is better than the other. There's sometimes people always think, oh, I should use hardware for my project because it's trending, or generative AI or something like that. But personally, I think you should really consider your familiarity first and foremost with these technologies, and really think about your solution. Really think about whether about the problem and the users, and what would be best for your solution. Because sometimes I know everyone here is developers, engineers, but sometimes it's good to kind of ignore the developer side of things and really think about the end users. You should really think about, you should take somewhat a generalist approach when it comes to uh, creating the use of technologies. I think it was mentioned a bit earlier in the speaker session, but it's good to take an entrepreneurial side approach to creating your solution and really thinking about what users are really going to benefit from them. I'm going to pass it on to JJ.
All right, thank you, Philip. So for the demo video phase, so after finishing our first prototype, we decided to record all the steps throughout the process, whether it was the prototype itself running, to it actually being used by real users for the first time, and miscellaneous shots that could help the narrative. So yeah, just keep recording. You never know which footage that you may end up using. We believe it's important to take the time to think about how you want to frame the tone and energy of your video. So, for example, we think that our solutions demo video best fits the tone of like a short infomercial with guided steps on how the solution works, as well as its real world impact. So, after establishing this concept and tone, we learned that it was much easier to edit through and create an amazing demo video. So we can't wait to see your demo video for the 2024 Solution Challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Wonder Reader. So now we'll move it over to Bus Busters. We have Sergio Mauricio here representing Universidad Autónoma Gabriel Rene Moreno in Bolivia. And I will ask Sergio Mauricio just to share a little bit more about himself and talk to us about what were some of the 3 impactful things that you did to help you move through the Solution Challenge journey.
Hi everyone. I'll tell you a little about our experience for the team formation phase. My strategy for choosing team members was based on combining complementary skills for key aspects of the project. Initially I identified necessary competencies such as mobile apps, development, UX, UI, design, electronics. Moises took on the challenge of developing the mobile application. Wendy started with prototyping the mobile apps and UX UI. Eventually, she assisted me with preparing the image dataset, select handling the device and electronic components. Um, I took care of the deep learning part, the model and its implementation. Okay. Role assignments were the decided considering each individual's mm, considering each individual's strength and how they could contribute to the project's success. I promoted flexibility in roles, allowing adaptations to the project's needs. Additionally, I fostered open communication. After initiating the project, we needed the choice, the technologies we would use. In the past, I had good results working with TensorFlow. So now we continue to really rely on TensorFlow because we observed its effectiveness on embedded devices and its variety of pre-trained models for our use case later. We choose Flutter for the mobile application. Moises learned it before the competition and understood the documentation. Simply, which was very helpful. I also trained quick models in Vertex AI and could test them locally following the documentation. This marked our initial code submission, and it was very fast. To complete the work, we use a Gantt chart to assign deadlines to each task based on its priority. I controlled the time based on the academic calendar of the semester, exam dates, the subject they were taking, and constantly consulted their plans for the week, allowing me assigned tasks based on their time availability. As a leader, sometimes you have to plan ahead. They should have a contingency plan in case something does not go according to plan because anything can happen. For our demonstration video, the strategy was to tell a story like a trailer for a short film about the epidemic problem and our works. We prepared a script with the team introduction, the problem, the solution, how the idea works, and the expected results. We wrote the script in Spanish, corrected the grammar with ChatGPT, and then translated into English for narration using Google text-to-speech. For animation on the maps with fumigator and mosquitoes, we use PowerPoint, and we had no knowledge of animation with other tools. We recorded key moments of our prototype test to show its functionality and include them in the video aligned with the narration. Throughout this adventure, several challenges arose, and we were able to handle the calming strategy and with planning. One challenge was getting a Raspberry Pi. The original idea was not use one, but during the last little time, we tried to buy one, but there was no stock in Bolivia. I reached out to my contact from know people in electronics events, explaining the situation, and someone told I how to borrow one. Within my network of contacts, we probably would have been eliminated for not being able to send our solution. The other challenge was English. We practiced pronunciation and fluency a lot with the help of our mentor Mario. My teammates still don't mirror English. It was difficult for them. We use AI tools like the Elsa Speak application for improved pronunciation, uh, Adobe Podcast to enhance English audio, Google Text to Speech for narration, and ChatGPT to correct script grammar. For a final demonstration, we use a teleprompter. We always sought to support our work in some way. On the technologies front, we choose tools that I aided project scalability in cloud, such as Firebase or Google Cloud Engine, Vertex AI, and TensorFlow. We drafted our code documentation on GitHub as clearly as possible, including a step-by-step guide on how to run our solution on Raspberry Pi. We told the story of the different model versions. We built how we did it, the process of constructing our data set, some screenshots. Our model could identify mosquitoes types, and we captured in on video to showcase it functionally, adding into our final presentation. We aimed to tell the story of all work done, the partnerships and the support we garnered from the local government and access to a laboratory. The contribution of our mentor Mario was crucial in getting us to identify key problem point we wanted to address and conveying what the problem causing the dengue epidemic was and how our project could help in prevention. Mentorship was a significant resource. This is a global issue that many of have experienced with mosquitoes, and choosing the topic was crucial. This is my experience in solution challenge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now we have, thank you, Sergio Mauricio. Now we have Team FarmX. I will ask for all the members to introduce themselves. And then again, please share some of the top learnings and insights that you found to be most valuable in moving you through the solution challenge journey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victor Olufemi, but you can call me Victor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Oluwaseun Salako, and you can call me Shane.
Hi, everyone. My name is Additional Lekon. You can call me Lekon.
Yes. So for our team, we developed FarmX, which is a product that empowers farmers in sub-Saharan Africa. And on deciding the problem to solve, that came before, choosing what technology to use. So to decide the problem we solved, we did a bunch of meetings, and this problem was not decided on our first meeting. We talked about, problems over and over, that we were passionate about, and then we found, our intersection on agriculture. And the Google technology to use, came much after, choosing the problem and, identifying a strategy on how we're going to solve the problem. And also another tip as well for our team was, for our team, we took the presentation as serious as building the product itself. So we took our demo, very seriously. For that, we made sure we use, a mobile phone with a high quality camera to shoot the video. We also, created slides and practiced it prior to making the video, so we could have a smooth flow of transition while doing the demo video. And, we also ensured that we passed across the main details of our solution clearly and quickly, within the 2 minutes time frame that was given to us. Over to you, Lekon.
Thank you, Victor. And speaking as regard the resources that supported our solution most, we will leverage the documentation of various Google technologies like TensorFlow, Flutter, Firebase, Google Cloud, and so on and so forth. And how do we organize our time as a team, and how do we get our work completed? After identifying the strengths and weaknesses of each team member, the team lead made sure everyone is assigned to tasks they are capable of completing in a reasonable amount of time. The tasks were further broken down into smaller bits with time limits as a way of tracking down the progress of everyone on the team. Furthermore, we ensured consistent communication and feedback through WhatsApp and Google Meet. Thank you. Over to you, Salako.
All right. Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone for having me here. So basically, I'll be talking about how we formed our team and the criteria for selecting our team members. So basically, At first, we made sure our problem is clearly defined and the goals of and the goals we want to achieve during the solution challenge. And then we identified the required skills, that is the required Google technologies we'll be using for the solution. Then from that, we assess individual skills and experience in these tools we've outlined. And then we also made sure we reviewed the time commitment of each and every one on the team. That is, we basically looked at the availability of everyone during this period of time. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Team PharmX, for those insights. I really appreciate you really anchoring around like just the beginning, like the launch process of like how to first identify what team members before thinking about the problem. So now we're going to close out with Amritaj to represent Femunity and talk about a little bit more about what was helpful in moving through their journey with Solution Challenge.
Hello everyone. So Solution Challenge was a really great opportunity for me because it made me aware about all the different stages of product development, from ideation to team building to coding to review to taking surveys and then publishing the final product in front of a large audience. So I would like to put my emphasis on 3 points which I think helped me get into the global top 10. So the first point was to think from the user's perspective. A lot of times as programmers, when we start coding, we tend to think take the easy route, that this will be easier to program. But we do not think about the user experience implications. So if we think about a feature on how the end user is going to use it and how they are going to interact with it, I feel that we will have a better understanding of the application and give a more polished user interface. The second thing which I observed is that there should be a lot of emphasis on user feedback and data, because if you're working on any problem, you need a lot of research. Because if you identify a problem and if you do not do research from your potential users, from your community, from people around you, it's not going to work. And moreover, if you have an application, but if you do not do beta testing, if you do not do alpha testing, you do not ask people that how is this feature, is this UI, is this color palette, and n number of things, if they work or not. Because what differentiates and what I like about Solution Challenge from other like hackathons or buildathons is that you have an opportunity to make a product which can also be a potential startup, which can also start your entrepreneurial journey. So you learn a lot about keep taking a market review and making an application which is viable in the long run. The third thing which I observed is a clearly defined team roles. Whenever you are making a team, make sure that the team members which you have should have a very defined roles and you have a very good rapport with them. In my case, we were just a two-person team, but we complemented each other very well. While I was good on the front end and the content part, my teammate Arin and the part about integrating APIs. So together, we built a complete application and did not face any hiccups along the way. Along with all these suggestions, I would ask everyone to always look out for new features, because the internet, and there are a lot of resources available on GitHub, on Stack Overflow, and different websites. So you can always feel free to refer to any websites to resolve any errors. Reach out to your university GDSC seniors, mentors, and but do not give up, because it's a very long process. Because building the same product for months and months at a time, you might get demotivated in the way, you might face very big errors, you might face roadblocks, but being consistent in your efforts is the only thing which will help you succeed. That'll be it from me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amritaj, for that. What we were able to hear from all of the student speakers from 2023 Solution Challenge finalist teams is that we want to consider a number of things, right? So we want to think about the strengths of our individual team members and how to help balance that. also thinking about some of the project management skills that are necessary in addition to the technical skills that you're deploying, right? Making sure that the roles and responsibilities are clearly defined in terms of how you are planning to communicate, get research so that you can actually build a solution that matters to the communities that you're hoping to create a solve for. And also, just like the technical piece of it, there's a lot of learning while doing, right? You may not be an expert immediately, but as you're tinkering and experimenting and exploring, you'll start to become more familiar and see what possibilities are available to you. So I think those are really, really great insights. A number of these team members will hang out and stick around for the networking table. So if you have any specific questions around their projects or just more general questions about how to, again, get started and be able to have a successful, viable product that you're creating for the contest, I know that they'll be happy to connect with you all in that capacity. So if you can move on to the next slide. I do want to talk a little bit more about some of the resources and assets that are available to folks who decide to submit and be a part of the Solution Challenge contest. So as a participant in Solution Challenge, you are able to request and redeem assets to help build and amplify your project, provided by Google at no cost to you. So first, we have Google Cloud credits. Each team can request one voucher of a $50 value on a first come, first served basis while supplies last. Only one member from each team should request credits for redemption. So if we get multiple requests are received by one team across different members, we'll have to deny that request. So please keep that in mind. And again, you want to think about, do we have our team established first before making the request, since it is by team? Secondly, you can create your own web domain with a .dev, a .app, or .page URL if you would like, provided to you by Google Domains at no cost for 1 year. And I'm happy to share this with you all and announce, if we move to the next slide, you can go ahead and submit those requests now. So as an attendee, you are getting first dib access to making those requests. And those QR codes will bring you directly to those request forms, which will be reviewed. And then you'll get communication about where you are and being able to receive those credits and domains. Cool. And we can go to the next slide. And again, I know we're moving through the deck, but these will be available. This whole presentation will be available to you. The recording will be available to you. So you'll have access to all of the links that we have here in the presentation. So we are going to move into our question and answer segment of the event. And I know many of you have been jotting questions in the Q&A field, which I'm very appreciative of. So I'm going to invite Jackie back up to the stage for us to move through questions that we weren't able to answer in the presentation.
All right. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you all. And thank you so much for putting your questions in the Q&A. So let's go through some of these. This is kind of going to be a little bit of a quick fire response. So first question, can a beginner join? It's my first time and my second semester in school. 100%, of course. We definitely recommend, even if you are a complete beginner, even if you don't know how to code, if you've never built a project like this before, definitely recommend that you try. Learning really comes from doing. And so no matter what stage you are in terms of your experience, whether it's technical or not, you're going to learn something from participating and building a project and submitting a project. So definitely recommend for beginners to also join and not to be afraid to try. Okay, next question. Can we create a team without joining a GDSC chapter? We did go through this earlier, but these are common questions that come up. So I will go through these. So one member of your team needs to join a chapter. And I'm going to go ahead and share this in the stage chat for you all. This is a link. If you aren't currently a GDSC member, where you can go to join a chapter locally or even just virtually. Okay, next question. Are there any eligibility limitations for the country of each participant? This is a great question. I'm going to drop a link to our terms and conditions, and you can take a look. There are a couple of countries that aren't able to participate, so do take a look at that, and I will drop that link in the chat for you all. Great question.
Yeah, and the terms and conditions are also available on our website. Again, I'll share it, goo.gle/solution challenge, if you need to access it at some later point beyond the platform.
All right, next question. Can graduate students participate in the challenge? We did go through this one earlier as well. So yes, graduate students can participate in the challenge. Okay, what is the deadline for registration? The deadline for registration is the same as the closing of the submission window. So registration is going to be open until the final day that you can submit a project, which is February 22nd. So let me rephrase that. So registration and submission will both close on February 22nd, 2024. Registration is currently open and submissions will be opening on January 21st, 2024. Okay, team size. What is the minimum and maximum? So again, teams can form between 1 and 4 team members, and team members can only be a part of one team. Another common question that's related to this is, in a single GDSC chapter, can you form more than one team? Can we have more than like multiple teams as a part of one GDSC chapter? Yes. So if you're a lead or a core team member, encourage as many teams to form within your chapter as possible. But yes, team size needs to be between 1 and 4 team members. Where and how do we register our team? Great question. I'm going to drop a link to our website in the chat for you, where you can go to access the registration form. The registration form is to be filled out by each individual team member who really participants. Anyone who's interested in participating can fill out the registration form to learn more information overall and just stay up to date on everything Solution Challenge related. We will be sharing the submission form closer to the date when it's opening, where each team will need to submit their project as a team through that submission form. Okay, what kind of solution are you looking for? Application software, hardware? Does it need to be custom code? Can we build a no-code solution? Also a very great question. So we definitely welcome you to build a no-code solution if that's the route you'd like to go. We've seen amazing projects come through that are just built through software, but also a lot of great projects that have also utilized hardware as well. You know, there are a lot of interesting hardware that are kind of coming into play. Like I'm thinking of like wearables that are really popular right now. And so if you take a look at the demo videos from last year, from the final 10 teams, you'll notice that several of them utilize both software and hardware as a part of their solution. And just overall, we encourage you to look into different technologies and challenge yourself and, you know, try something new. Really think really big. You know, I think you guys are going to come up with some really great solutions. So really excited to see those. All right. when will the top 100 be announced, and what is the criteria? So all submissions are going to go through a judging process, and then the top 100 teams are going to be selected. And those teams are selected based on the submission criteria that we discussed in a previous slide. This is also in the participant guide, which I will link and put in the chat. And it also has a timeline. There's a lot of great resources in the participant guide, so definitely recommend that you refer back to that if you do have any questions. And then in terms of when we're going to announce the top 100, that timeline is going to be in early April is when we're going to be announcing the top 100. Okay, another question. In the testing phase, can testing users just be folks from our team? This is also a great question. We definitely recommend that you test your solution with individuals from your team. But if you're really thinking about like, how can we get the best feedback? I think it's important to think about who is the demographic? Who is struggling with the problem that you're hoping to solve for? Are those people in your community? Is there even a local organization that you might be able to partner with to kind of get more direct access to those users who are struggling with that problem? And if you think about it, you know, the best testing really that user demographic. So while we definitely encourage you to test your solutions with individuals on your team, family, friends, other students, faculty, really, I think you're going to get really interesting and helpful feedback from those the users that are a part of that demographic that you're solving for. Okay, 2 more questions here. Where can we learn more about the Sustainable Development Goals? I'm going to share 2 resources. One is a YouTube. It's the United Nations Foundation on YouTube. They have really great videos on there about all of the Sustainable Development Goals. They have lectures on there, just more information. And then the second link that I'm going to share is a link to their website where they have a lot of detailed information about each of the Sustainable Development Goals and the targets and goals that we talked about earlier, those like specifics, like that in terms of the actual data and the metrics that you're going to be looking at. That website is a really great resource for that. It's going to tell you, about each Sustainable Development Goal and kind of where they are in terms of progress from like when they started and what the goal for 2030 is. Okay, and the last question I have, a couple of product area questions that came through. Can we use Angular? Can we use React? Can we use Vue? These are all really great questions. For those of you that have filled out the registration form already, you'll notice that we did provide some more specific Google technologies that we were curious if you were interested in or planning to use as a part of your solution. With that being said, you are welcome to use any different product areas that you'd like. You do, as a part of the Solution Challenge, have to use at least one Google product, but you are welcome to use other products, and we definitely encourage you to look through all of the Google product suites. There are a lot of amazing products and a lot of new features that have come out recently. So to the question about those 3 specifically, yes, you're more than welcome to use them. We encourage you to branch out and try looking at different product areas maybe that you hadn't considered before. So that is all that we have for Q&A, and I will pass it back over to Rachel.
Thank you again so much, Jackie, for those operational instructions and folks getting into the networking table. Again, we just want to say thank you all for your time and great questions regarding the contest eligibility details and overall just your interest in Google Developer Technologies in using technology for good. So again, just think about your why, what it is that's motivating you to participate, making sure you're getting alignment with your teams, and please reach out to us. You'll get communications about resources and next steps. So please reach out to us with any questions. We're happy to be available to you and support you along your journey. Again, let's see what you all build, and happy 2024 Solution Challenge.